Hey legends, welcome to the Pot Noodle on Celtic Down Under. I'm your host Jared, and joining me are Shane and Ian. How you going, Ian?
I'm good, Jared. How you doing, mate?
Living the dream, mate. Living the dream. How you going, Shane?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, mate. Been a bit of a packed weekend full of football and catching up with a few people, but got out and got to finally see the film Saipan, which is still playing in cinemas here, probably for the next week or so. So for those who don't know, that's a rundown of what happened between Roy Keane and Mick McCarthy at the World Cup in 2002. And it's really good. I definitely recommend it. It's got some funny moments in it, but if you're sort of looking at it like I did initially and thought it might be a little bit too much of a piss take, it's genuinely not. It's well worth checking out.
I was watching sorry to put in, mate. I was watching a podcast. A guy who does this. He's like he's a Man City fan, but he's best mates with Mick McCarthy, and he wasn't very happy about it. He says he reckons that they've kind of caricatured Mick McCarthy and made him look a bit feeble, when obviously Mick McCarthy's a proper, top knot, really.
To a degree, but I thought it sort of summed up the situation really well, and I thought it sort of really touched on sort of the explosiveness and the tension really well, which I was a bit worried it might sort of gloss over a bit.
Let's be honest though, any sort of show or movie or doco series or something like that, there's always going to be that person who's made out to look, not the best in it. There's always something like that. So if Roy Keane's the main person in this movie or this doco, and it's all about majority about what him and Mick McCarthy went through, and he's the one that's more involved in it, of course he's gonna come across looking better. It's like what's it called, the Jordan show that was on Netflix during the pandemic that everyone was watching, and the parts about Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons made them look really bad. And yes, I admit I'm a Pistons fan, bad boys for life and everything like that, but made Isaiah look pretty bad in that show. So there's always someone who doesn't come off that well because of the story that's going on. It's the main person, the main character's opinion. So yeah, I'll check that out at some point, Shane, I reckon.
Yeah.
I wonder if and I love Steve Coogan, but I wonder the fact that Steve Coogan's playing him. There's always the element of Partridge, isn't there? So maybe that's a subconscious thing as well, perhaps. And I haven't seen it yet, so I want to watch it.
I didn't notice it as much, and I know we want to get onto the game, so I won't rail too much on Saipan a bit further. But what I will say is that it isn't a one way. Like, it definitely highlights moments for both characters in particular where you sort of go, they're probably at fault here. No, he's at fault here. So I actually think it does a good job of striking the balance and letting you decide, basically, was this unprofessional or was this actually a situation where maybe Roy overstepped the mark in his professionalism. So it's really good. It's actually really decent. And I don't see much of the Partridge stuff that come through at all, really.
I didn't know Steve Coogan was in that. So
yeah, he plays Mick McCarthy. He does a really good job, actually. It's that was what made me a little bit nervous, because I thought, like similar to you, Ian, I was like, well, I only really know him from his comedy roles. I don't really want this to be a giant joke kind of thing. But it isn't. So definitely worth checking out. Anyway, I guess that's the pod done. So thanks for having me on, guys. It's been well worth it.
You're not allowed to go yet, Shane. You haven't given me like your tips on music and stuff like that anyway. So you're gonna have to chill out a bit.
So we'll have to do a Wednesday show. It's for the arts and culture. Stroke our chins.
Got to grow my beard back to do that though.
Are you going to drink tea and eat scones while doing it as well? Just to really go highbrow?
Yeah, I always drink tea. Rocking the tea.
Why not? But it's got to be pinky out.
Yeah. Anyway. McLaughlin in the comments, still clinging on, lads. Yeah, that's interesting spot to be in. I thought we're in our group chat. I basically said that everyone was talking pre-game. I think Shane was the only one who said we're going to win. For me, I said we're going to get pumped worse than Bonnie Blue at Schoolies. That was how I felt going into the game. So, I'm pleasantly surprised. And at halftime, I was like, yep, pretty much. That was pretty average at halftime. But we'll get into the game in a couple of minutes there. But Robert Gibson's asking you a question here, Ian. I need to know why Ian's living in his car every second podcast.
Yeah, because So basically, the time this show goes out, my children are getting to an age where they're still not quite in bed yet, and it's three boys and a girl, so they're quite loud and noisy. I managed to when I do Axom, it's like the middle of the night almost. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30, so everyone's asleep. But with this podcast, it's just slightly on the cusp of it being noisy. So at least if I can get in the car and do the podcast, it's not ideal. So hopefully it doesn't piss people off. But yeah, it's just an opportunity to sit and have a quiet spot and talk nonsense about Celtic.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments talking about Brouhaha. We got we finally found our hard man step forward, Brouhaha.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've got Brouhaha's not going to be here though next season. Our board won't even ask the question. Same with Sriracha. McLaughlin saying you could get him on another year's loan, I reckon. But do we really want loans? No, I want him permanently. It's going to be an interesting one. So, yeah, realistically, we'll crack on into the game. But yeah, I'm just going to bring up some stuff here that I got ready. So, going into the game, boys, this was our starting lineup. So, Sinisalo's in goals, Arahau, Murray, Scales, Tierney across the back, double pivot with McGregor and Oxlade-Chamberlain, Nigrin in the 10, and then Adamu up front with Mater and Yang on the wings. Bench, Doohan, Kanchvara, McCowan, Tenecti, Sriracha, Hatade, Arthur, Forrest, Donovan. I looked at that squad going into the game going, okay, double pivot. We've been talking we need someone next to Kalmack there. Honestly, if Engels was about, he'd probably be in that role. And, Oxlade-Chamberlain be that impact sub for us at the moment. But for me going into this game, I thought that lineup looks okay, and there's some guys on the bench who can change a game, impact it. So if we want to change formations or if we want to look for a different sort of player, it's there. So I actually went in looking at that going, okay, there's two main issues I had with that lineup going in, and the first one was where's Kasper, and we're going to get into the Kasper situation after the game. So we'll just hold off, pump the brakes on anything to do with that there. But the other one for me is I may be wrong. He could be injured, but I'm looking at that going, where is Bernardo? He's not even on the bench. Is he injured, suspended? What's the go there?
Not as far as I'm aware.
Completely dropped out.
I think he's hanging around at the bottom of a cliff where his form went.
Yeah, pretty much. So they were the two things when I saw that. But other than that, going into the game, how are you feeling, Shane?
Nervous. Nervous because of what it felt like the result either way could mean. So in terms of lineup, a little bit nervous with Murray going in just with the disruption between Scales and Trusty. But Adamu leading the line instead of Vanchara was the other thing that I was just a little bit worried about because I think Vanchara is better in that role at the moment. And I haven't seen enough from Adamu to suggest that he could impact a game at the moment starting. So those were sort of the two areas from the team list that I was a little bit sort of concerned about. But overall, it just felt like a win or a loss was going to make the season yesterday. And so going in, I was quietly confident. I thought we could do it, but also of the opinion that if we happen to lose, that was probably our season done. So in that regard, yeah, as I said, just a little bit nervous.
What were your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, I wished. I know it's probably not the right time to do it, and I suppose any remaining game is not going to be the right time to do it. But I do wish that we tried two strikers up front. Rangers did it to decent effect in the first half. They went long and bullied us, a fair amount, and kind of just blew us away really. And I think having those two strikers up front, was a major factor in that. So I do think, with Adamu and Schmeichel, they're imposing. They've got a physicality. I wouldn't mind trying to find a way to try and accommodate that and have. I think we'd have a bit more success. I think whenever Schmeichel has played and Adamu, they just seem isolated in that system. So there's been some talk about maybe Nigrin playing as like a false nine, or there's a number 10. But I think he kind of I think he kind of has his best effect when he runs from midfield and finds himself in the box. Doesn't work hard enough. But Colby Donovan, I think he had a decent game against Stuttgart. Excuse me. And I think despite the mistake, I think he had a really good strong second half. It's funny, like Martin O'Neill's, I think he's made a few mistakes in terms of his team selection. Excuse me. But he's sort of managed to turn it around with substitutes and stuff. So yeah. So I've got to take so yeah, it was. It looked like it was going to be a horror show, but luckily we pulled it around, and I think a draw was probably a fair result.
So Shane, do you want to give us so while we let Ian have a coughing fit and sort himself out, do you want to just give us your rundown on the first half? All I want to say before when we get into the goals, Shane, is I just want to talk about their goals, but you just give the full rundown and then I'll jump onto their goals off the back of that.
Well, the rundown was that we started really passively, and Ian used the term that, or mentioned that they bullied us, and they really did in that first half. They were at us from the first whistle. We sat back. We were way too static. We tried to play out on occasions where we didn't or shouldn't have played out, and that's what led to their first goal, which I'll let you touch on a bit later. But overall, they just dominated the ball, and we couldn't get a foothold in the game at all. Our midfield was non-existent. Oxlade-Chamberlain was an empty jersey. We couldn't get the ball up top. Our front third, particularly Adamu, and this is why I don't want to be too critical of him, because as much as he didn't impact the game, I also think that might have been due to circumstances out of his control in the way we were playing. But our front third was completely isolated. Our wingers couldn't get into the game. There was no width to our attack. We were just pinned back constantly. And they were bullying us and they were pressuring us. And we had absolutely no ability to turn that around in any shape or form in the first half. At no point did it ever look like we'd actually get our foot on the ball and take the momentum out of or away from them, I should say. So we just couldn't hold the ball. We couldn't make anything happen. I think we had one shot off target. Our best moment came from KT getting forward and whipping a ball in. And that's the only time either him or Araujo got forward in that first half. We just had nothing going forward, no width to our attack whatsoever. Araujo in particular was just getting smashed on that side. Like, they clearly targeted him as a way to try and unsettle us a bit. And, some individual mistakes led to the goals, which I'll let you touch on in a second. But overall, when it came to halftime, we just looked completely all at sea. And I said to you openly, there's no way back for us. Like, we're done.
So at halftime, just to give you a bit of a look into our group chat, this is what was shared at halftime in there. The old Simpsons meme of a Celtic guy back into the thing and out become wearing Motherwell jerseys. So that's pretty much that was a meme that was shared. And there's quite a few people pretty much saying the season's done. Willie turned his TV off and went to bed. So yeah, it was one of those games really where I just look at it and I got no idea. Like, okay, Dane Murray. There was jokes in a few of the group chats I'm in, so we're just waiting for his mistake. He's every second game he plays, he makes a mistake. It leads to a goal, and that happened in this one for their second goal. We made Chamidi, or whatever his name is, who's an absolute dog's breakfast of a striker. He makes Vakun Bayo look coordinated. We made him look decent with their second goal. Now, their first goal, the what's it called? Is it a scissor kick?
Bicycle
kick. Yeah, it's the one. I always get the term wrong. That one, that was just class. Like, I'll be honest, the cross was on point. The finish was, he hit it back across from the direction it came, which is pretty hard to do, but it's what he needed to do because Sinisalo had the middle and the other side covered. So at the end of the day, I've got to give credit where it's due there. Like, that was a fantastic strike and a fair little cross in there. Not much our defence could have done about it, except maybe be 3 or 4 inches taller. That's about it. But You know, let's ask Shane about that.
Yeah, I know it's a very well known feeling in this household.
But other than that, like I don't think there was much more we could have done with the first goal. And I've seen some people online absolutely berating our defense, going, "That's piss poor. What's Araha doing? What's Scales doing? What's Murray doing?" Just finger pointing at different players all over the place. Sometimes you just got to tip your hat and go, "Okay, that was a fair goal." And that's the way I look at it. If that was our players doing that, I would have been doing laps of the house. So I'll give credit where it's due. Now Shane looks like he's about to.
I agree with the finish. It's a wonderful goal. It's an awesome strike, and he deserves all the credit in the world for it. But it only comes about, in my opinion, because we fluff around in the corner trying to play out in a situation where we should have just hoofed it long. That's the only thing I'd say. Like, our mistake led to that. It's no one's direct fault that he actually necessarily scored, the overhead kick, but it's more like that build up happened because we were so lax with trying to play out. That's all I'd say on that.
Yeah, fair point. So
Can't give him all the credit, mate.
mate,
I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, all good. I'm not having a crack or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, to me, I think the goal deserves more of the credit than the abuse our players are getting for, not just putting the laces through it and clearing it up the field. Like, we fucked around with it and we got found out at the end of the day. There you go. Wasn't expecting that one.
That's a good one to put.
But yeah, that's the way I look at that goal. I don't know what you thought, Ian.
That was a good finish. I must apologise to Colby Donovan. Sorry, I was blaming him for the mistakes, and it was Dane Murray's mistake before he acquitted himself better in the second half. I think it was a class goal. I mean, I'd heard some commentary saying that it was as good as McTominay's against Denmark, which it wasn't. I don't think at all. It wasn't at all. But
the media. What blue nose in the media is saying that? Far out.
Exactly. But again, it's it was a great technique. You've got to be spot on with it to score a goal like that. And he did have to hit it back across. It was a really good finish. But I thought the second one as well. Obviously, Dane Murray made the mistake when he sliced at it, but he kind of embarrassed Araujo as well. Araujo. Sort of dinking it over his head and then just nicking it past. So I thought they were both well taken goals, but it was a bit Keystone Cops, the defending for his second goal. But yeah, credit where credit's due, man. It was a good finish.
If you look at the second goal, though, Murray gets out of position, which drags Scales over, which then drags Araujo over, which then leads to him being out of position to not be able to deal with that because he's wrong-footed on that tap over the top, right? So it's the flow-on effect. So Araujo made a mistake. Scales overcompensated too much to cover for Murray. So overall, it was a complete functional mistake across the back there. One player made a mistake. Everyone tried to cover, but they overcorrected, and we got caught out. Still think it was a bit of a dog's breakfast of a goal. Like, that was an ugly bit of pinball involved in there. Sometimes you got to be lucky, but, as we know later on, sometimes the ricochets and the touches just land in the right spot.
One of the who was it? It was James McFadden said on the Sky Sports over in the UK. He says, when Hatate came on, he had 6 shots on target, and McFadden says, yeah, 3 of those were from the penalty, which they were.
Easy way to pad your stats.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the second half, I just want to throw this little picture up on the screen because why the hell not? This pretty much sums up the way the game flipped at halftime. And I think Bonnie put up a question, which I'll get back to in a second, but that's how it was, first half, second half for them. But, yeah, just to the comments, like, Bonnie is saying, would love to have seen Martin's halftime team talk from last night. I think it was pretty simple, Bonnie. Don't ruin my damn birthday. That's all it would have needed to be. And then make a few subs. Like, I reckon he would have torn strips off some people. And if he didn't, Sean would have. because he looked like him and Fozzie on the bench looked absolutely frothing at the bit at halftime. Like either they were going to rip strips off our players or someone was going to take Danny Rule's wig off and, you know, and just put it in the center circle. Who knew what was going to happen? It was interesting. But yeah, I'll get some comments up before we get into the second half. So Robert Gibson saying that first half was like watching a time warp with us around 5 seconds behind. Robert saying, I refused to go on a Scruffy Murphy's in Sydney with my lad. I was expecting shite. I was 50% right. Mahesh is saying Kentvara had to start as a bigger unit and Rangers are a bigger side.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, so, and talking about their goal, the bicycle kick, there you go. 9 times out of 10, he missed the ball completely. Pity for us, that was the 1 out of 10. Yeah, exactly. But, and there you go, Robert Gibson summing up that perfect. The first goal unstoppable, second goal was a comedy of errors. Yep, 100%. So, second half, Shane, what was your thoughts?
Well, I'd already told you my thoughts in terms of where I imagined this was going, which was we weren't going to turn around. It's probably going to get worse before it got better. But you mentioned Martin probably tore strips off a few people at halftime. Not only that, he made some immediate substitutions. You know, one of them was Oxlade-Chamberlain coming off, which was really important because he'd had absolutely no influence on the game. Bringing on Hatate, which was a crucial substitution. And he also hooked Adamu and put Maeda through the middle. And obviously the focus was all about actually putting them under a bit of pressure, which was getting the ball forward, getting them turned around facing their own goal and having someone actually, you know, harass their centre halves instead and forcing them to play the ball out. Because one of the things that was noticeable in the first half is just how comfortable they were. And so the second half was all about, we're going to make it uncomfortable. We have to make it uncomfortable if there's any way back into the game. And we did that. And I thought those two changes in particular were really good. All of a sudden with Hatate coming on, his movement, not necessarily the way that he was playing in the past as he was spraying left and right, but his movement was really important. All of a sudden that midfield, which was non-existent and felt completely clogged up, there was space there all of a sudden. He was dropping a bit deeper, which enabled a bit more space for Kalmack to get on the ball. There was a bit more space for Negrin to get on the ball and dictate play. And all of a sudden, with Maeda leading the line as well and putting the likes of Suda and Fernandez under pressure, we got a foothold in the game for the first time, probably around the 50-minute mark. And from there, we had the ascendancy for the rest of the half. There was probably a 5 to 10 minute spell where they brought Diamande on for one of the strikers up top, where I thought maybe it had evened out a little bit, but then we got the ascendancy back again. And all of a sudden, the roles had flipped. Like they were completely pinned back in their half. We were winning the ball back high up in their half. We were actually having wave after wave of attacks. We completely flipped the script on its head. And we were probably unlucky not to win in the end. We could have easily walked out of there with a 3-2 win in the end. And at halftime, it looked anything but.
I just have to point something out there, Shane. You did a nice little pun in the middle there without even realising it. The roles were flipped. Just like his toupee. There you go.
He had no idea. Obviously, Martin had made some tweaks, and it wasn't just tweaks on the pitch, but the way we were playing, and particularly the width to our attack as well. He was really making sure that our fullbacks were getting high up the park. All of a sudden, obviously Tierney scores the goal, right? The first goal, but then Araujo is getting forward, right? Tierney's getting forward. Srirachi, when he comes on, is getting forward. There's width to our attack that wasn't there in the first half, and that was causing them all sorts of trouble.
Our fullbacks were getting to the 6-yard box constantly, whether they were getting to the byline and cutting it back with some crosses, or whether they were getting in there as a back post runner when the ball was on the other side of the field. It was happening all the time. Like, I think it was in the last 10, 15 minutes, I saw 2 or 3 times where I'm like, is that Dazen or is that Araujo up there? And I look and I go, oh, it's actually both of them. There you go.
We only had 1 shot in the first half with off target. We finished with 17 shots in the end.
Well, you're talking about stats. Here you go. Stand Up for Celtic put this great tweet up here. We absolutely battered them. 55%, 45%. Expected goals 2.24 to 1.5. Total shots 17 and 12, 7 on target, 6 big chances. They had 2 big chances missed, we had 4. Accurate passes, we're at 78%, and we had an extra 90 passes in them. They had less fouls committed, obviously, because it's at home and who's the ref. They had more offsides, and the corners was 6 to 7 there. So statistically, we absolutely battered them.
So just to sum up that, by comparison with the first half on its own, our expected goals was 0.03% with one shot not on target. Like, that second half, we absolutely did batter them. And we can feel unlucky not walking out of there with all 3 points, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts on our goals, Ian?
It was good to see Hatate kind of being pretty positive when he came on. We were really lacking that kind of, someone who was taking risks and playing the ball forward, which is his main attribute. I think he does lose possession a fair bit, but that's the risks that he takes. And when he's on his game, I think he's probably our best player. So he certainly has been in seasons gone by. So when he kind of waited for the pass, Hatate when he was out wide and passed it into the box, then it got played to Negren. I think Negren's ball was really clever cross, and that man Kieran Tierney just rising to slot it away. It was a nice header. It was a nice move. It was a really nice move, and obviously it was wave upon wave of pressure. We pushed up that little bit further. We went more direct as well, which was that was how we started under Martin O'Neill's first tenure. I think we kind of stopped the horseshoe of death and was going a bit more direct. It wasn't a complete departure from the way that Brendan played, but it was nice to see that we were getting the ball forward and causing a bit more disturbance in the final third. And then we've kind of, since he's come back the second time, we've kind of laboured and we've gotten away with a few things, and obviously then our locks ran out. So second half was a kind of a return to that kind of a bit more blood and thunder that we like. As I say, I would like to have seen his goal with a couple of guys up front, even if it was sort of last knockings of the game, just to see what would occur.
Yeah, I'll get it into the mixer sort of setup. There you go. So
yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah, Mahesh agrees with what you were saying there, Ian. Like Celtic got more direct and down the middle quicker in the second half. And then he's also saying that Celtic got control of the midfield in the second half. And the thing was, for me, it was, as you were saying, we were more direct. And you were saying that, Ian, and Shane, you were saying the press was there. And that's the big difference in the second half. We went out there with a lot more direction and this is what we're going to do. And let's go down swinging if it doesn't work. So to me, that was... So we've got to bring back. Like when Ange was there, we were the aggressors. Didn't matter. I don't like constantly referring back to the good old days under Ange, but we were the aggressors in every game. Didn't matter who we were playing. We were on the front foot. We were pressing them. We were harassing them. We were making them play our game at our speed and being uncomfortable. And we've got into that thing, particularly in the last 18 months, where we're just happy to go through the motions, pass it across the back and horseshoe it. So seeing that bit more directness in the second half and the results go our way, maybe, just maybe, there is a bit of fight left in the old dog in this team. So we'll get through some comments here. Heavy Vibes is saying, why do we have to go a goal or two behind before we start playing? Not good for the heart. Don't know, Heavy Vibes. Wouldn't be good for Martin either. Wouldn't be good for most of us either. Michael Ross is saying that'll be Hatate's one good game in 5 out of the way. Craigie White is saying, still in this, that's why we're champions. Good to see you back, Craigie. It's been a while, mate. Hope you're doing well. And then Michael Ross is saying we really need farts to slip up soon. You wouldn't want a fart to slip up, mate. I'll tell you, otherwise you end up with a steaming pile of Vibrox. And then Craigie White saying, imagine if we played for 90 minutes instead of 45. Yeah, we would have pumped them 5-6-0. Would have smacked the living shit out of them because they're rubbish. But anyway, so Celtic, we got a penalty at Ibrox. What the hell? If we're going into the game and we're expecting there to be this penalty, right? It's going to be, Penn, Rangers, Tav, Penn, all that sort of stuff, right? I don't even know if he was in this lineup. I can't remember. That's
Yeah, he was on the bench. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So I just have to bring this up. Just look at how heartbroken he looks. Like right here. Look how heartbroken John Beaton is looking at that monitor, being like, oh no, I'm gonna have to give a penalty here at Ibrox for Celtic. And there he is. That's the modified picture with the Huns tears. I'm just trying to find the one other comment here. And Scott Lang on Twitter was Beaton looked like he was watching the Queen's funeral on that monitor. There you go. He did not want to give that, but he did. He didn't hesitate. And the craziest thing was that he was actually called over to review it by VAR when knowing who was in the box as well. Like it was obvious it had to be a pen. It should have been a card. Not necessarily a red. Penalty and yellow is the double jeopardy. But wow, I'm actually shocked that we got the penalty.
I couldn't see it in real time. Like it just skipped by me without anything connecting at all in terms of what took place. And then you saw the replay and thought, oh no, that's a clear pen. And you only look at it once or twice to go, no, that's a clear pen. And you sort of see VAR talking to him and you're like, come on, call him over to the monitor. And maybe this is just me being the conspiracy theorist or the conspiracy theorist coming out of me. I swear he watched that like 6 or 7 times unnecessarily on the monitor to basically look if there was anything at all that they could basically decide not to give the pen. Because you only need to look at it twice. You're like, yep, to his hand. Yep, the ball's going goalward. Pen, done. Like twice, I reckon, at most. And I reckon he looked at it 8 times. And I was watching the game with my partner and I turned around and said, they're not going to give this. They're literally like combing over the footage to find some sort of morsel. I know this sounds really conspiracy theorist, right? But it was so obvious that I couldn't see why they took so long or why he took so many times to replay it to come to that decision. Like it just seems so clear and obvious to overturn.
Yeah, it looked like the key words clear and obvious error, so that's why VAR had to get involved. But yeah, it looked like they were just going over everything to a fine-tooth comb, looking for anything in the build-up that they could use to potentially get off the hook there. So if we look at comments from Robert Gibson here, he's saying that Beaton has been in the stocks at the Loudon ever since full time. Craigie White is he was thinking so hard, a reason not to give it. Heavy vibes, VAR is used against us often, but we don't get that pen without VAR. And that's 100% right, heavy vibes. As much as I don't like VAR, the thing is, when it's a header going goalward, the ball's not going towards the keeper. It then hits the defender's outstretched arm and then hits their keeper square in the face off the deflection. That was a good falcon, by the way, but if it wasn't for that, would their keeper have saved it? Maybe. But there's no guarantees. So, yeah, it has to be given.
But what's the key thing there, though? Clear and obvious. That is a clear and obvious miss or mistake, whatever you want to call it. That is exactly what the system should be capturing and overturning.
And it was a great falcon. Let's not forget that. His face just rippled and everything in the slow-mo. It was hilarious. Go back and watch it, Shane. I watched it 4 times on slow-mo just because it was so funny. His face was...
I was too busy sweating about the fact and getting ready to unleash rage when I expected him to go no pen that I'd just completely missed that. So I'll have to go back and check it out.
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I mean it was a blatant penalty. It was kind of one of those blink and you miss it in real time, like you say, Shane. But I was shocked actually. I thought they'll find a reason. They seem to like not mind taking the heat when it's a diabolical decision. But it's such a big, high-profile game. The menace will probably be coming out in other games, and the effect. I think a big thing that they manipulate is breaking the play up, and little stupid fouls and pulling it. But there were Rangers. How many times? Like Oxlade Chamberlain, I can't remember what minute it was or whatever, but he got taken out and he was on the deck, just fully expecting to get a free kick, and it was like play on. The amount of times that play was waved on when it should have been a penalty. Sorry, it should have been a free kick to us. So I think that's the disturbance to cause rather than actually blatant, not denying as a penalty. That's a blatant penalty. But it was nice to see that on the third attempt, Rio tucked it away.
It was a pisser. That penalty. It's like, what's his name again? Their keeper. I would have mental blank.
Butland.
That's the one. Because too many B names. We're talking about bloody Beaton before and now this, but yeah, Butland. Like, I think he's saved eight penalties at Ibrox or something in the last year or something like that. So yeah, he was in some good form. Saved another pen, and then he's able to, Gumby style, get another arm back the other way to, save it the second time, and then we finally get the ball in. But even Bader was almost there.
I can't believe you said he saved 8 penalties at Ibrox or something. I can't believe had 8 penalties given against them during that time.
I may have been, reading some drunk person's tweet about, when they said it was 8 at Ibrox. It could just be 8 in general. That's probably more what it is. But, drunk people and tweets, it's good fun. Now, Robert Gibson has got a good point here. If we win the league, Beaton may be nominated for Fenian of the Year. What do you reckon, Ian?
Sorry, read that again. I'm doing this on my phone, so I can't read the comments very well. What was it again?
If we win the league, Beaton may be nominated for Fenian of the Year. What do you...
Well, we're due one of their players being a turncoat, aren't we? So I know he's obviously a referee, but one of their own being a turncoat. We'll take it any way we can.
100%. Craigie White. Did anyone else think Rio was going to miss that pen? Yes. When I saw it, I'm like, yeah, he's not scoring the pen. Let's hope that someone can knock the rebound in. That was what I was actually thinking. I was looking, okay, who's around there? Don't encroach the box. That's actually what I was. As soon as he shot it and it was saved, I'm like, oh God, I hope we don't encroach the box here.
That's where you need Maeda, right? It's like, where's Dyson? Right. Off you go. As soon as he hits it.
But man, when he saved it the wrong way. It's like saved the ball back to the side on that second save, back to the side where Dazin was coming in as well. So even if Rio didn't get there, the ball was going in off Dazin.
Anyway. I tell you what, I was just thinking about Dyson. Do you see him when he was walking into the Ibrox and it was raining and he had his bag over his head to protect his new hairdo? It's like, he's more after his hair these days than he is. I'd get baldy, get shaven headed, Dyson back and get him at it. Since he started fucking about with his hair, he's dropped off a cliff.
Do you remember when Bruni post-COVID came back and he had his long hair for about 2 games or 3 games after when he first come back, and he was absolute rubbish. And then all of a sudden we're about to go play. I think we're playing Aberdeen away or something like that. And next thing you know, you just see him walking in the stadium off the bus, and he's just like the fool, like back to the zero all over. And I'm like, yeah, Bruni's back, and he's absolutely just got out there and terrorised people. That's all we need from Dazin. Just get the Clippers out. Get him a buzz cut, get him back into it, and off you go.
Yeah, man, it's kind of like the reverse Samson.
Look, we can't all have great hairdos like this fella right here at Ibrox. Like, let's have a look. I love it. Honestly, look, this bloke going backwards. Come on, Shane, you spotted it yet?
I have. Yeah, I have.
Sorry, that's not at Ibrox. That's at Everton, Liverpool. But anyway, it's still funny.
Oh, is it really? Oh my God.
Yeah. Look, it's not a cap. Live Everton, Liverpool. Yeah, still shocking head of hair. Anyway, so bit of a brouhaha happened post-match. Bit of a skirmish.
Brouhaha.
That's why I named the episode that. I'm like, how good is it? I went on the Chat GPT or whatever it was, right? And I'm like, give me an episode name. And it was like point of peace in Glasgow Derby or something was what it said. And I'm like, change it to a point of peace in Glasgow Derby brouhaha. I'm adding that into it. I want to just get it a bit. Got to use it. So best part, yeah, mate. You just tell him, get pushed, squeeze your nuts at him, tell him he's a little bitch, all that sort of stuff. It's great. Funniest part of the whole thing, right? And I don't know how you boys thought about this, but so you've got the whole thing on the pitch going on, and they're all trying to get at Araujo. And there's like 4 or 5 guys going at him. Martin gets in there, settles things down. Then all of a sudden you look around and there's like 3 or 4 other guys, like Raskin and a couple others, coming in from the side, trying to get at Araujo again. And they're all like super aggressive and everything and trying to surround him. And then all of a sudden, big Tom Cansavara gets in the way, all 6'5" of the guy. And they all just like bitched up and just disappeared really quickly. I thought that was the funniest part of the whole push and shove afterwards. They weren't worried about Dane Murray. They weren't worried about Scales or any of them. The centre backs, no. But get the big checked 6'5" striker in there is a little bit of a loon, and you're like, yeah, okay, bye.
That's not surprising from Nico Raskin, his little fake hard man act again.
Did you see the rumours post thing that I'll bring the tweet up about it? If this is true, it's the best. But there was this tweet put up by Mary Hill Visler, which is rumour going round. The Celtic boy Araujo got a police warning in the tunnel. Seems he waited on Raskin and landed a couple of digs right on his chin. Raskin left on the ground dazed by all accounts. And then further on later on, it's like, came from a steward at Ibrox, apparently can't confirm 100%, but you could clearly see Araujo offering Raskin to take a walk down the tunnel with him. So if that's actually true, then this post here from Araujo that he put up post-match makes a lot of sense. Good fight. Keep going. Also, don't fuck with Araujo. That is a legit post he put up afterwards. How good. Makes me think that it actually happened and he is legit nuts, and I love him more and more every game.
He's class. And it's top shithousery as well.
I was just going to say, this is why people want to sign him up permanently, because we saw he's obviously been quality on the park. The goal against Killy, the last-minute winner, and obviously the way he celebrated shows that he gets it. And then seeing him yesterday, they were clearly frustrated. They were pissed off at having dropped 2 points after their dominant first half. They decided to try to be, to borrow your term, Jared, big man on campus, and try to throw their weight around. It didn't work, and he was straight in there telling them exactly where to go. And you're right, and he just understands what it means to represent this club and not take a backward step. And we haven't had a player like that, so visibly like that, for probably since Bruni. Maybe I'm forgetting a few. Apologies, but the way that Araujo goes about it, you can just tell that he absolutely gets what this club is and what this club means. That's exactly why we want him on the books permanently.
I'll tell you, Bruni, Lustig, they're the sort of guys that I'm thinking in the more modern area. But Araujo, the way he carries himself is seriously giving off holy goalie vibes to me. The way the shithousery, how much of a loose unit he is, he does not really give two shits. Like, in terms of if he looks like an idiot, he just gets out there and he will bleed for that jersey, and I love it. I'm there for it every day. So I wanted to name the episode "Don't Fuck with Araujo," but wouldn't get away with that. So yeah, what we'll do is, is there any other talking points from the game you want to get into, or should we just crack on to the Kasper talk?
I just want to give a shout out to Rio again, Rio and Benji Negrin. So Rio, we've all been critics of Rio this season. Myself, everybody, we've seen his form tail off dramatically. We've probably wondered if there was a place for him at all in this team in the run up to the end of the season. But he was really important yesterday. I know he had a couple of moments that were kind of like, oh, Rio, but when he comes on, Oxlade-Chamberlain was an empty jersey, and that midfield had absolutely no involvement in the game. So at least if you bring Rio on, and Ian touched on this really well early on, Rio's a risk taker. And if you're 2-0 down at Ibrox, you need to take risks to get back in the game. So rather than have someone out there who's just going to get on the ball and be very passive with it, bring on someone like Rio who's going to spray balls left and right and just make something happen. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. We're already 2-0 behind. It's not going to make a difference anyway. But if it does come off, as it did, all of a sudden the whole game complexion changes. So tactically, Martin's tweaks were really important, but they're only effective because of the game that Rio had in the second half. And for someone who we've criticised immensely this season, I thought he was. I don't think we come out of Ibrox with a point without him yesterday. Put it that way. And Benji Negrin, just a quick shout out. Again, he benefited a little bit from Rio. I saw something from Benji I haven't seen at all this season. He just seemed to relish actually dictating the game. He seemed to play as more of a traditional number 10, and he was dictating the play for a fair bit there in the second half, and I've not seen him do that until this point.
You know something else I noticed about Negrin? He didn't mind the bit of the niggle in this game. People were kicking him and bumping him and pushing him around, and he was giving it back, which was something that I haven't seen a lot from him this year. So, yeah, that was a positive for him too. Not only did he seem like having the 2-8 or the 2-6s and then Negrin in the 10, Negrin looked settled in that role. But, yeah, it just looked like the right balance there. The one thing, though, Shane, where you said about Oxlade-Chamberlain being an empty jersey, how many times does the midfielder alongside Kalmack this season look like an empty jersey?
Oh, a fair bit.
So I'm going to ask the question then. If this is an ongoing recurring theme, is it that our midfield balance is wrong? Is it that Kalmack's legs are gone, so whoever's alongside him is having to do double the running and double the work, so they're looking like they're playing poorly? Or is it just bad luck in general? Because for me, I'm looking at going, is Kalmack, if you had, say, Engels and Oxlade-Chamberlain side by side in the 2-6s, would that work better than having Kalmack and Oxlade-Chamberlain or Kalmack and Engels next to each other? Just throwing this out there.
I'm going to put Oxlade-Chamberlain, I'm going to isolate it to yesterday and yesterday only, because I've liked what I've seen so far from him, and I thought he was really crucial in the second half of Killy when he came on and we went to a double pivot with him and Kalmack. I thought yesterday he just couldn't get up to speed with the game at all, and maybe it was just him not being up to speed with the fixture and the intensity of it and the way that they were going to come out and press us and bully us. Maybe he just wasn't there. Ian touched on the free kick earlier when he got, and it should have been a free kick where he got dealt with and he was on the deck and it was let go. And he reacted like as if like this is a complete and utter shock, like what's going on. Whereas I think a lot of players are probably in that situation go, yep, that's typical. So maybe he just wasn't necessarily at the races in terms of this fixture and the intensity of it. I still think he's worth persisting with. If Engels is fit, Engels comes in and partners Kalmack for me. But right now, I wouldn't drop Oxlade-Chamberlain necessarily. I most certainly wouldn't drop him and bring Rio in. I don't think we're at that stage. I just think he was really poor in this particular fixture. But I actually think he's been okay up until this point and will actually find his feet. And again, he's come in. He's still probably finding his feet a little bit as well. I think he'll be much better for this and this experience.
So I got a message from Ross, who's watching the show. He's on Celtic Underground. So Roscoe just here. He goes, I'll message you some passing stats from the first half to second half to see. It shows how much of a big difference Rio made. So I'm just going to go through that because it's some absolute, like, I didn't even realize it was that ridiculous, Ross, until I got this message from you. So passing connections in the first half. So 4 of our top 6 connections featured Sinisalo or Scales passing to another defender. Ox was the first midfielder to feature at 7th with pass counts between 2 players, with Scales and Cal with Scales in at 10th. Right. In the second half, Rio featured 5 times in our top 10 pairings, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 10th. Cal twice, 4th and 7th, both with Rio. So that shows the difference of having that out there and that balance. And that's what my concern is, like just trying to figure it out. Like, is our midfield balance wrong? Is our structure wrong? Is it the way we're playing? Who knows, right? But yeah, it's a bit of a massive night and day sort of scenario there, isn't it? If we're going to get into the stats, and I'm not a massive stat head, but yeah, appreciate you sending that through, Ross.
Yeah, I think Rio's with Rio and his form dropping, I think that's been a major. It's had a major impact, obviously, and losing Engels as well has not been great. I know not everyone's the biggest fan of Engels, but I do think that Carmack, a double pivot that was Engels and perhaps even the Ox would allow Carmack to move further forward. I think he moved back too soon in his career, and I still think that he's got an eye for a pass. Whether his muscle memory now is just sideways passing, but when he was a younger player, when Scott Brown was in the team, for example, he was a much more forward-thinking player, much more effective, and popped up with his fair share of goals. So I think that it's the same as Dyson as well with the two Japanese guys with their form dropping off. It's had such a massive impact on our team, but especially the midfield. I think with Dyson as well, the amount of times he would press and he would help that midfield out. So tenacious was he. That's dropped off now. So I think it's really sort of highlighting those cracks.
Yep, makes perfect sense to me. So, man of the match, what are you thinking? I think it's pretty obvious, in my opinion. It's Rio, the way he impacted the game, come on half time and changed the game. You boys in agreement, or is it someone else for you? Close second would be Kieran Tierney for me. And Brouhaha. That'd be my top three.
No, it's Rio for me. Rio changed that game, like you said. We don't come out of Ibrox with a point yesterday without him.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think bravo. I was really glad for him as well. And after he scored, he looked like it was a kid at Christmas. He looked really pleased. So now good on him, because he had all the plaudits, and then obviously he's had the snipes as well. With his change in fortunes and change of headspace, I suppose. So it was it's nice for him to have his moment. And without him, we would have left with no points.
Yep, I'd agree. I just think it's one of those for us where, heavy vibes is giving credit to Scales as well. Yeah, good point. There's a fair few guys who played well. I think Sinosalo didn't do anything bad at all. He should be keeping that starting jersey, as far as I'm aware. And that ties us into my next talking point perfectly there, which is Kasper really sick, or is he taking the half at being dropped for Sinosalo? What are your thoughts on that, Shane?
I'm going to lean on the fact that he is legitimately sick, because I don't think he has any right to get the huff over being dropped for Sinosalo. And if he has, that is really poor form on his behalf, because he has been out of form. And when you're out of form, you lose your spot. And he's made a couple of crucial errors. And the Stuttgart game was that was it. That was the limit. So I'd like to think that he is a professional to the point where he would understand that. And that he would actually be, and we talked about this previously, about how Kasper wasn't the long-term option here, that Sinosalo was his understudy, was eventually going to take his spot. So for me, if he is wanting to be a good mentor, he wouldn't necessarily be unhappy with Sinosalo taking his spot. Maybe in different circumstances, sure. He might be disappointed in his own performance, but I would like to think he hasn't got the huff over this because Sinosalo is taking the spot because he's been out of form. I would think that he is a consummate professional and better than that, or at least I would hope that. So I'm going to lean on the fact that he's sick and not hope that he's sick. That's a bit unfair. That sounds terrible. But I hope it's more of that than him actually sort of cracking the shits and saying, no, I've tossed it away now because you shouldn't have dropped me. You've treated me badly.
What do you think, Ian?
I think he's still affected by that shoulder injury. I think that's the issue, and obviously it can look like loss of form, but that's the saving grace. If he sort of held his hands up, not to the left though, if he held his hands up and sort of said, "Look, guys, I'm struggling here," then you can forgive him. But if his ego is that big that he would rather sort of keep himself in the spotlight, maybe to try and get security spot in that World Cup squad or whatever it might be, he's the hole in the boat. And it's been like the Stuttgart game, the Kelly game. and it's always to the same side. It's to the left hand side, and and he's going for balls with his right hand, which is when you just scoop it with his left. So I think it's his injury is he's not recovered from it. Seems like it was a bad one. So step aside. You've got to step aside. We've got a title to win. And I love Kasper Schmeichel, I really do. But if he has thrown his toys out the pram, no one player's bigger than the club, mate. And you've got to think of the big picture.
For me, I look at it and go, I think he must be sick. I don't think he's the sort who would do that, right? Like, just thinking of the family and what his old man was like and what he's been like elsewhere, I think his biggest issue is the injury. And as Robert Gibson's saying here, Kasper wants to go to the World Cup, but he's a 3-limbed goalkeeper. Roscoe's saying that I'm told he was genuinely ill. And that's the thing for me. Like, if he's going to, at the end of the day, he's got to realise that, yeah, we know Sinisalo is the guy to take over for him. But I don't really want to just believe that he's cracking the shits because things aren't going his way. I think he's better than that, and he's more of a professional than that. So I'll give him benefit of the doubt. But yeah, unless I hear something different confirmed behind the scenes, then yeah, I'll just trust in what Martin's saying and yeah, go from there. But Sinisalo is the starting keeper for me the rest of the season. That's until he does something stupid. So it's time. You know what has to happen. It's the return of Zombie Watch. We have to, when we play the Rangers, we have to grab some of their reactions off their social media and have a bit of a laugh at that. So I'm going to start with this one here. So Dujon Stelling shared this, obviously. The infamous Wilfred Nancy post, things that matter, things you can control, what you should focus on. And the response to that is feet, head, hand, where the ball shouldn't hit. Perfect way to stitch him up, right? The next one is Rangers. Have you boys seen their new logo?
No.
The Rangers, always cheated, never defeated on the banner. Happy days. So gotta have a bit of a chuckle at that. Now, this is the sort of fun stuff that I really love seeing. Inject these Hun tears right into my veins all the way. Like, love it. So, John Calvin. Boo. Fuck off, Roll. Get out of our club. Fucking pathetic weasels. Stonewall loser. These guys are fucking wimp. And then another guy. Roll got it wrong. He was outcoached by Martin O'Neill. They're turning on the coach already after a draw. We're a disgrace. Heart's the size of a midgie. Or a midge. We've deserved nothing. Danny Raw is nothing but Philip Clement in disguise. He's out of his depth. Shite bags, a lot of them. Gotta love that. Best run under him was when the pressure was off and he was meant to be a slog to end the season. The minute we closed in on that lot in Hibs, the pressure was right back on and he shit the bed with his tactics. So they're turning on their manager already. There's a genuine 50-50 split with Rangers Twitter about whether or not we need to move Roll on at the end of the season. Oh, dude, these guys are off their heads. This one here, Faceless Ranger. I'd sack Danny Roll tonight, and I don't care how reactionary that sounds. The worst Celtic team in my lifetime. We can't beat them at home 2-0 up is not the one. These guys. It's 100% on Roll. The buck stops with him. They changed it. It was too slow to react. So they're full on turning on their manager already, so we have to have a laugh. And then there's this one, Clyde Super scoreboard. I will not accept this mentality. Billy saying, nice guy, clever guy, but he sits in a corner while his missus gets 3-balled, then changes the sheets after it's done. I had to finish on that one because
Jesus.
I thought Robert Gibson would appreciate that sort of comment. So the reason we bring that up, the reason we bring all that up, right, is because we spoke about it previously, Shane. Like this week for us, the run of games where it was Stuttgart, Rangers away, Aberdeen away, Rangers away in the cup, season defining. And we were talking. Imagine we go to Ibrox and we beat them in both. They'll implode. The implosion's already starting when you see that online. They're starting to already melt down and want their managers sacked. They've just had to let their chairman had to step away and go back to his Leeds duties.
What the hell was?
Anyway, pump some buttons, why not?
Fuck the king, up the Celts.
There you go. So, just looking at things like this, that was actually good timing with that.
That was, yeah.
But say we go to Aberdeen, we pick up the win, we get the 3 points on the road. That brings us to 5 points behind Hearts, with 9 games to go. Then we go to Ibrox on the weekend after winning away in Europe in Germany at Stuttgart. A draw, come back from 2-0 down to draw at Ibrox, then go win at Aberdeen, to then go back to Ibrox. If we can knock them out of the Scottish Cup, guarantee them no trophies, realistically, they're going to implode. Their season will be done. We're putting a line through them straight away. This is exciting. Not just because it sets us up nicely for the run-in, but I'd also just see, the local rivals just absolutely melting down. It's great for the content game on the pods on a Monday. What are your thoughts, Ian, about these next 2 games? Like, how are you feeling heading into the game, particularly against Aberdeen?
Oh, the pessimist in me, I don't see us winning the league this year. I think we've really painted ourselves into a corner, and I agree with what you're saying there. I think if we beat them in the cup, it could really derail everything. But equally, the reverse could happen, and it would do the same to us. I think there's more points to be dropped by all teams, but I just don't see this. The uncertainty with our new loan signings, Martin doesn't seem to know what his strongest side is, and he's kind of chopping and changing a wee bit. Obviously, Kasper, that was a necessity, but in terms of strikers, the forward line and the midfield, it's like, we're not motoring ahead. We're still stumbling a little bit. So, we'll probably, after that second half performance, we'll probably go and fuck it up against Aberdeen, but I hope not. Obviously, I think if we beat Aberdeen and then can keep the momentum with the cup game, anything's possible. But at the moment, I'm not massively hopeful.
I'm going to lean into Ian's pessimism a little bit as well. We've had a little bit of fun on this pod, and obviously, when you look at the game in terms of the 2 halves, the tale of 2 halves, coming out of Ibrox with a point was a really good result in the end for us based off of what we saw in the 90 minutes. But going into that game, getting all 3 points was really important, and we didn't do that. And that second half showed that there's still a pulse there. At halftime, we were gone. Our season was done. There was no way we were in a title race, but there's still a pulse there. But not taking 3 points on reflection wasn't great, as much as we've managed to derail them a fair bit and cause all sorts of upheaval by taking a point. Really not taking 3 points does hurt us a little bit. And then that second half, as I said, just to sort of recap what I'm saying, it does show there's a pulse there. It does show there's fight there, and there is something there that we can call upon. And all of that is absolutely meaningless if we go to Pittodrie and don't pick up 3 points. If we go to Pittodrie and we don't pick up 3 points, or worse, lose, write the season off. It's done. So yeah, we've had a lot of fun and we've had a lot of enjoyment in this pod, but there's a reality here that there's a lot that still has to go in our favour, and a lot we have to turn around on a more consistent basis to consider ourselves in this title fight. We're still there just. But for me, I look at Hearts and obviously everyone's sort of looking at them going, well, they'd be pretty happy with yesterday's results. And I agree with that. They'd probably be a little bit concerned by the way that we battered Rangers in the second half, because I think it showed something we haven't seen for quite a while. It's been a long time this season since we've battered a team to that degree. But every time we think we're catching up or every time we think we're going to get a march on them, they don't slip up. And until they actually slip up, I just can't see it. And again, on the weekend, they get out with a result where you sort of look at it and go, well, maybe this might be a banana skin for them, and it's not. I kind of need them to slip up before I'm really confident we can reel them in.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel. Like I was having a laugh before and everything, and I'm like, look, there's still hope there. It's like you're saying there's it's like we got the shock thing out and the paddles are out. We're on that gurney and we're getting getting the jump up and everything like that, right? So at the end of the day, we're getting revived. We're still in there. There's still a pulse going. But the thing is, as you said, Hearts pulled away further on the weekend. There's 9 games left after this. If we get these 3 points at Aberdeen, which isn't guaranteed, let's be honest, it's a tough place to go, Pittodrie. And we go up there on the back of travel, away, derby, and to head up there and do that, right? It's going to be a tough ask. So if we're going to go up there and we get the result, great. But even if we do that, we're still 5 points behind. And as you said, Hearts are grinding out results. There's a Shankland here in the comments saying only suits us, so cheers. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's your title to lose, mate. I'm actually saying that. It's your title to lose. All the pressure's on you guys. We're in a spot where we haven't been in a long time. You're in a spot you haven't been pretty much ever. So who's copping it worse? That's the way I look at it. So we need them to slip up a couple of games. We need to beat them a few times. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And Ross is making a good point here in the comments. How's the split fixtures are scheduled? Will be interesting. Us 3 at home and 2 away. Hearts and Huns 2 home, 3 away. So that's going to be a big factor as well. But yeah, I'll just look at it and go, we're going to need to pick up these points up at Pittodrie, but at the same time, we need Hearts to drop a few just to really turn the screw on them. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now, before we wrap up the pod, usually we end with a final thought. What I thought is we'll still do our final thoughts, but I want to go just a fearless prediction for the next month of the season. So this can be a silly fearless prediction. It can be a serious one. Anything to do with Celtic and where it's going to be. So if you want me to go first to give you some thinking time, I'm going to give you a silly one and I'm going to give you a proper one, right? So my proper one is that we are going to knock the Huns out of the cup in extra time on Sunday. So that's my fearless prediction. We're going to knock them out. They're not getting the trophy. And my silly one is after that happens, Hoopy the Huddle Hand's going to run onto the pitch and put a big Celtic flag in the center circle, and then they'll burn this stadium to the ground. Ian, you got a fearless prediction?
Well, after my last comments, I just think we're only we're one draw or defeat away from disaster, and the wheels are all going to come off. So I just can't see us. I can't see us winning the games that we need to win to get any silverware this season. Actually, I think it's quite convenient that we got Rangers in this round of the cup. So obviously, if it was in the next round, it would be at Hampden in neutral ground. So I think the advantage has been given to them to have a home tie. I think Roll will probably learn some lessons from the second half. So yeah, I can't find any positives, to be honest. I think we just left it too late. It's self-harm, and I just think we're going to get what we deserve, which is nothing.
And Shane?
I think that, we've got about 4 or 5 fixtures until the split. I think we'll be within 4 points come the split.
There you go. So we win against Pittodrie, then we got to pick up one more. There you go. Happy days.
I don't have an out there prediction. You got to give me more time. My brain doesn't work that quick after a few Guinnesses.
I gave you warning before the pod.
You did, but like
Yeah.
too much to drink, man. Like, the brain doesn't work that quick.
All good, Shane. Don't stress. So my score prediction for the Aberdeen game is we will win that one 3-2. I thought I'd throw a score prediction in there before we go to our final thoughts.
You go in.
I've got a sneaky feeling it's going to be 1-1.
I reckon we get out of there with a 2-1.
There you go. Cool. Final thoughts, boys. Let's wrap the pot up. So for me, really simple. Enjoy and embrace the title race, everyone. I've seen Jim Moore say that numerous times on Axom, and in my lifetime, this is probably one of the few title races. I think I mentioned last week, Shane, like how many times have we had a 3-team title race? Never in my lifetime. So as frustrating as it can be where we are in the ladder at the moment and everything, I'm enjoying it. So enjoy the title race and let's see how it all plays out. I'll go to you for next, Shane.
Music recommendation, big on Australian music, of course. So to everyone who's tuning in from overseas who might not be too familiar with Australian music, check out an album called Born Sandy Devotional by a band called the Triffids from WA. The cover on it is actually a photo of the WA city of Mandurah. A long time, very different, basically from the early 80s. It looks very different now, very popular. Great album, great alternative rock album, Australian music. Dave McCrom was just such an underrated talent. So yeah, Born Sandy Devotional, the Triffids, check it out. And before you go to Ian, just whoever it was who had a go at me last week and said I couldn't reach the hats, I can reach the hats. I don't need to stand on a ladder. So I don't know who that was, but cop it.
Yeah, there you go. Shane just went whack.
Keeping receipts. That's what I'm doing.
And Ian, you got any final thought?
Yeah, what a season it's been. I'm hoping there can be some change at boardroom level. That actually brings in some best in class people. But I was going to say, and this might make the comments uppity in some parts, but I actually think that, and I've said this in group chat before, I think Kevin Muscat would be a good shout for us. I think he's got that Aussie winning mentality. He played for Rangers for 5 minutes, and he's got the added incentive that he was rejected by Rangers. So I think he's skilled in the Ange. You know, he's a chip off the old block with Ange, and he's created success wherever he's been so far. So I don't think he'd be a bad shout. I think he could be an Ange Mark too, because Ange has obviously said he's not going to come back. Yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's kind of my final thought.
Love the idea. I'm just laughing at Shane's copping some strays here in the comments. So, all right, you put a chair on a platform. Robert Gibson saying Shane is sat in a high chair tonight to reach the hats. Yeah, he's got his boosted feet out. And he's put bricks under it to raise it up another 4 feet. Shane's copping it.
You got to have a laugh, gentlemen. You got to have a laugh.
So thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under YouTube channel and to the podcast on your podcast apps. We really appreciate it. Still trying to grow the channel. If you can do so, hit the like button, and that helps us with the YouTube algorithm as well. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks everyone. Thanks Ian. Thanks Shane. Hail, and we'll see you next week.
Hail.
Okay.